How's it going, everybody? I've got some more Magic for you today with a mono green counter deck. This is pretty similar to what I've actually been playing over the past couple of weeks and enjoying. I had played a little bit with the Simic aggro deck after the bans, and it was feeling okay, but overall I was enjoying it more just cutting the blue and making it a mono green deck. So I decided to bring some of the new Avatar The Last Airbender cards into the deck and try that out, see how I was enjoying it, and so far I've been loving it. The Badger Mole Cub, I feel like, is going to be a staple in any green deck at this point. It is so good, it's unbelievable. And then I also have things like one copy of Earthbender's Ascension, which is pretty good because it has a landfall effect tied to it, so it works well with Earthbending. And then we also have Toph the Blind Bandit. I thought she was very good in this too as just a one-off. Don't want to overdo it because a lot of the core of this deck is so good on its own. Ouroboros is obviously a staple in green now as well from Edge of Eternities, and it's been working really well. And I've even enjoyed pairing it with the Through the Omen Path card Strength of Will, being able to give your creature indestructible and then give it additional 1/1 counters from any amount of damage it's dealt. It's really fantastic against burn. Also really good if you've got a blocker that you need to grow or something along those lines. It pairs really, really well, though, with things like Ouroboros, or even Warden of the Grove, which is really fantastic in this deck as well. Kind of going over it, I do have one Snakeskin Veil. It's just a little bit of extra protection. The Hexproof can get around Exile as well as Indestructible, so it's really nice in here too. You could even run more of these instead of the Strength of Will if you don't have them, so that's something worth considering. We have 4 Llanowar Elves, which generally always is really good in mono green or any kind of green deck to begin with, because it's going to be turn 1 ramp that gets you an extra mana. But now with the Badger Mole Cub, it makes it to where the Llanowar Elf can be tapped for 2 mana, and your mana can be tapped for 2 mana. So essentially you can go turn 1 Llanowar Elf, turn 2 Badger Mole Cub onto your onto your second land, because you only have to tap the elf and 1 land to get the cub out. Then that land becomes 2 mana, and you can potentially use it to tap for any of your 2-drops here, any 1-drop here. Not bad at all. And then, so as far as 2-drops, we've got Innkeeper's Talent, a really good and necessary card in this deck to help grow your Ouroboros or Warden of the Grove faster. We've got things like Surrock, this is Frenzied Baloth, but Surrock also are both uncounterable, but the Frenzied Baloth also has Trample, Haste, and makes all of your spells uncounterable, so this deck actually has a lot of protection against counter spells, which is really fantastic. Because if you can get a Frenzied Baloth down and you know you're up against blue, then you're going to have all of your things uncounterable, including it, so they can't counter it either, and they'll have to kill it quickly. Because the rest of your things basically all have protection, and on turn 3, you could essentially have 4 or more mana between a Llanowar Elf and a land creature from Badger Mole Cub. We do have the Strength of Will. Like I said, this is protection along with Snakeskin Veil. I actually really like Strength of Will, though, because of the 1/1 counters it can provide. Toph has the ability to where its power is equal to the number of 1/1 counters on land you control. So by creating these Earthbend lands from either Rockalanche, which lets you Earthbend X, where X is the number of forest you control. The primary bulk of the lands in this deck is 16 forests, and that's for that reason. I did try originally with more Fountain Ports and things like that, but I felt like it was taking away from the effectiveness of Rockalanche, so I wasn't enjoying that. Also does have Flashback, which is really fantastic. You don't see that on a lot of these lesson cards, but the Flashback on this is absolutely doable between Badger Mole Cub and Llanowar Elves. But yeah, so Toph can get additional 1/1 counters herself, also getting power equal to the number of 1/1 counters on any land creatures that you control, and with Ouroboros being able to spread out 1/1 counters so effectively across all creatures in your deck, Toph can get absolutely huge. we do have, let's see here. The Earthbending's Ascension's really nice too. When this enchanter enters, you get to Earthbend 2, so that's another land creature. If you already have Badger Mole, then that one can also be tapped for 2 mana. And then if it dies, you put it back onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle, no problem. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, you put a quest counter on this enchantment, and if you do, and it has 4 or more quest counters, then you get to put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, and it gains trample until end of turn. So trample can help you get through with your attack. We obviously have quite a bit of trample because we have Paw Patch Recruit, we have Frenzied Baloth, and we have Sirach, all having trample. And all being able to enter after a Warden of the Grove. Warden of the Grove has the ability at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on this creature, and whenever a non-token creature you control enters, it enters X, where X is the number of 1/1 counters, allowing you to either put the 1/1 counters on the creature, which I really advise doing if it is one of these trample creatures, or Ouroboros, for example, or if you are putting in, let's say just for the sake of it, you're trying to play a Llanowar Elf. It doesn't have trample, it's not going to provide much value on its own, but maybe you need extra blockers. You can use Indoor X to create more tokens on top of the Llanowar Elf that you've just played, the Badger Mole you've just played, things like that, that don't necessarily need those 1/1 counters right away. So very good there. And it can let you go wide as well as grow creatures depending on what you need to do. Ouroboros obviously is an absolute powerhouse, just stacks 1/1 counters on all of your creatures constantly. It wants to be the main focus of where you get 1/1 counters from things like Summon Fenrir, if you can play it right after, Warden of the Grove, if you can get it coming in after that and getting additional counters, or any counters that you can put with Innkeeper's Talent are often going to want to go on Ouroboros. So, really good there. And you do have a lot of really good deterrence, I would say. Not necessarily, even though we do have some protection spells, we also have a lot of deterrence in this deck. Paw Patch Recruit can make it to where if any of your creatures get targeted by a spell, it and its token, if you have that, would put 1/1 counters on other creatures that you control. If something of yours gets targeted while you have Sirach out on the battlefield, then you're going to get to draw extra cards, which is really nice as well. So a lot of things there that make it to where if they target anything of yours, you're going to get some kind of a benefit out of it. Toph also does Earthbend. I don't know if I mentioned that, but she brings out another land creature on entry as well. I'm only running it as a one-of because it doesn't inherently have trample on its own, and it is a 3 mana cost card. So it's on the top end of what we're doing here. There's a lot of 3 mana options here. Not too hard to get to between Llanowar Elves and the Badger Mole Cub, but removal is very prominent right now. So expect to have everything that can be removed will be removed, which is why we're running some protection spells as well. And then land here, I thought it was worth saying. Like I said, I did make the bulk of the land a 16 forests. We're only running 22 land, if I'm not mistaken. No, just 20. So 20 land here is pretty light. Gets made up for a lot with the Badger Mole Cub and the Llanowar Elves, and this isn't a landfall deck inherently. But we do have things like Bossing Say. This land enters untapped as long as you have a basic land, which should be very, very easy to enable with this deck. Can tap for green, and also has a pay 3 Earthbend 2 ability, so you can actually ramp a little bit with your own land by utilizing the Badger Mole Cub and Bossing Say to make more land creatures. And then I thought this was a really nice inclusion, the Secret Tunnel. This creature, or this land, when it is a creature, cannot be blocked. So it is a way to get counters on a singular creature that is completely unblockable, not just trample. And it also has the ability to pay for and tap 2 target creatures you control that share a creature type can't be blocked this turn. So really good if you have, for example, Paw Patch Recruit and you want to target multiple of them with their trample to make them unblockable. Not as good because they already have trample, but it's always an option. We do have Sirach, which is human. I don't think we have any other humans other than Toph in the deck, but that's something worth considering as well. We have Hydras with Warden of the Grove. So if you have multiple of them out, or the Baloth, I don't think, yeah, so we don't have any overlap there. Not a lot of overlap to take advantage of, but just the fact that we have Earthbend and can turn this into a land that inherently has unblockable can win you the game with as many 1/1 counters as we're generating. Not to mention, this deck has a lot of sustainability. If people are trying to run a lot of board wipes, any of your land creatures are just going to come back as land, so you don't lose much. Anytime that your board gets wiped or individual creatures are targeted, you're getting value out of things like Paw Patch, Recruit, and Sirach. So if you don't play out all of your options all the time, then you can actually keep something back to keep rebuilding your board with really easily, which isn't bad. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start getting into matches. I've won a lot with this deck already. Like I said, this is a modified deck that I was using before the new set release as well, so I've had a lot of time to kind of tweak it and modify it. And we're really just experimenting with these new cards mostly at this point. But this one's a really fun one, and I do recommend it. So far, I've been enjoying it much better than the Simic alternative. So that's something to consider in my opinion. But I'll go ahead and get into games. No sideboard here, playing best of one like I normally do, going for 3 wins. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Alright, unfortunately our opponent does get to go first, and we've got a really slow start here, but I will keep. For one, we're going to draw a card, so maybe we'll get something a little bit quicker than these, but also having the Fenrir that can go straight into the Ouroboros on the next turn is pretty nice. So, we'll keep. Go ahead and give it a try. Okay, Forest. I want to prioritize playing Forest first, because we do have the Rock-a-Lanche, which will get bigger for it. Looks like we're up against Azorius or maybe even Jeskai with artifacts. 2 mana, nothing we can do yet, so we didn't draw any faster options, unfortunately. Gonna go ahead and go Fenrir so that we can start getting our Ouroboros down and big. Lets us ramp into the 4th mana already for the Ouroboros. Okay, this is probably some form of counterspell, which is pretty unfortunate. For that very reason, I'm going to go with Toph instead of Ouroboros, just so that if they try to counter it, I still get some kind of value. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go with this land here. Obviously, we would have liked to have hit this one, but the auto-tapper kind of got us there. Okay, spring-loaded trap. Doesn't really matter too much. Even if they hit our land, it just comes back. And that was going to die on the next turn anyway. It just would have been nice to draw a card. Putting a stun counter on our land creature is a little rough, though. Okay, Day of Judgment already kind of gets rid of the whole benefit that they got from stunning one of our creatures, but whatever. I think I'm going to go here. And I'm probably going to go with Rock-a-Lanche. This time I'm going to make sure it doesn't tap incorrectly. No problem there. We can still keep Persistent Annoyance on them because our land is just going to keep coming back. Does still have 3 mana up. Doesn't look like he's hit any useful Azorius artifact cards yet, though, like the Simulacrum Synthesizer or the Repurposing Bay. So that's pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and go here, I think. Why do you do that? It didn't even ask me if I wanted to auto-tap at that time. Undo that because I didn't tell it to do that. Go ahead and go here. And I think I want to go here. Get a couple extra creatures out with this. That way we can get some 1/1 counters going if he wants to try and target more things. If Judgment's fine, we still get the land back, which actually triggers the loyalty, or the landfall again as well. Okay, so he's already using Perilous Snare to get rid of that. We've hit a lot of his board wipes and stuff, though. So we have a pretty nice opportunity, I think, to go for Ouroboros and the Frenzied Baloth here. Really low life on our opponent now, and we still have threats. They've already been really heavy on board wipes and things, but they couldn't completely get rid of out of all of our options. So this is what I was saying about this deck being really sustainable. If you play it carefully, and I was being a little bit extra careful just because of the colors they're in case they had counter spells or anything like that, which you don't commonly see in an artifact build, but it is still there occasionally. But a little extra carefulness, you know, spend your things you don't mind losing first. Went ahead and wasted most of their removal killing my lands that were just going to come back, exiling an enchantment I didn't really need. So we got to get our big threats out now while they were pretty much drained of all of their answers. And we still had options. We still had the ability to use Rock-a-Lanche here. We were going to be drawing cards off the top. And I do include Fountain Ports so that we can still get some tokens, which can be extra bodies for the Ouroboros to pump, or even extra ability for us to draw cards off of that. So, very nice so far. We're going to go ahead and see if we can get a good game too. Alright, we do get to go first, and we have a Llanowar Elf, so I'm pretty happy. Means we could go straight into something like a Fenrir. If our elf doesn't die here, that is. Okay, so pretty safe elf on this turn. Let's go ahead then and get Fenrir going so that we can ramp up our land. Okay, know where to run. Probably going to be getting rid of the Fenrir, which is fine. We won't get the 1/1 counter that it would provide this turn, but it did its job. I think, honestly, getting another Fenrir down is totally fine with me. Thin out as much of this land as possible. Could have gone ahead and gotten a Paw Patch Recruit down, but at this stage I didn't think a 1/1 was going to, or a 2/1 Paw Patch Recruit was going to be as effective. At the moment, we've got to worry about board wipes more than that, I think. With black and white mana open, there's lots of different board cards that could be a threat here. So I think what I'm going to do, I should have probably done the land after the Ascension, but what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to go Paw Patch Recruit first. That way we get the 1/1 counter there, which is good, and we get the ability for it to start targeting, or if they target things, they start buffing our other things. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead, I think, and get the Earthbender's Ascension down. It's going to give us a creature that's going to not get completely wiped out from a board wipe, so it helps our board just a little bit. And we get to ramp a little bit more, get these counters going. Don't really mind a Kieran. I'm totally fine with him blocking if he wants to. Do wish we had the mana for Strength of Will right now, but I think it's fine. Okay, so a pretty easy win, and that's because single target removal doesn't work great against this deck. With Surrock or these Paw Patch Recruits, then they're going to have to contend with the fact that I get something out of them doing target removal. And my board was still totally going to be fine. For one, I was going to be able to pump the land, which was going to incentivize them to want to try and deal with the land. And if they do that, then it just comes back and triggers this again for me. So really good all around there. Like I said, I probably misplayed a little bit by not playing this before the Bossing Say, but Overall, didn't really make much of a difference. I know this was a quick one, but our opponent was trying to play like a pixie removal heavy deck, so we just had the right kind of deck to go against that. They needed things, in my opinion, like, what is it called? Pinnacle Star Cage or Day of Judgment. Board wipes were going to be more effective, though not completely effective against us. Anyway, let's go ahead and see if we can get into a game 3. Alright, unfortunately our opponent does get to go first, and we don't have any mana ramp, but this is a pretty good start. We do actually have ramp with Fenrir, which we can get to, we just can't get to it quicker. Maybe we'll draw a Llanowar Elf or something along those lines, though. That would be nice. We did not, but we did get more land, which is also still pretty fine. Gonna go ahead and get the Paw Patch down. Go ahead and attack in. Sadly, all of our hand is 3-drops, and we didn't get ramp up to it this time. Weapons manufacturing, so we're obviously up against some kind of a artifact build. I'm gonna go ahead and try ramping. Don't want to attack into the piggy bank, that would just be giving them value for free. Now, unfortunately, we just have to wait and see what they do next. I am totally fine with just letting that through. So far, okay. I was going to say, they don't have any kind of a sacrifice outlet out on board yet, but now they do. Discard a card. I'll discard a Surrak. I unfortunately don't have any way to kill this Viper right away, and that's going to be a huge threat. Got a Llanowar Elf now, which isn't ideal. We're up to 5 mana. So let's go ahead and get Surrak. We do get a 1/1 counter on it, plus we can go with the Innkeeper's Talent to get another one. Now Surrak's at least big enough to kill the Viper if he chooses to attack. Phoenix Fleet. No sacrifice outlet at the moment though, so we're okay there. Unfortunately I lose 8, but we do block the snake. Alright, what do we do here? If I use this, keep 1 mana up. Yeah, seems like the only real option. Now we at least have a decent board presence that can be threatening if we can hurry. Really? Okay, interesting. That'll give another fleet. He's going to need to get up to 8 of them, though. Definitely here going with the Frenzied Bailoff. I think we probably... Okay. I was going to say, we probably want to go with Fenrir next, but the important thing is that we were going to have enough power on board. Because if you look at this, we've got 4, and then another 3, another 3. This was going to grow everything by 5 once we give it the 1/1 counter here, so we were going to be attacking in for lethal. Yeah, so they just didn't quite have enough threats. They were definitely getting there quickly if they could sacrifice one more thing. We were already down to 9 too, which was really dangerous. But I think the real threat that they generated from having that Viper, they wasted. They shouldn't have attacked in with it when they did. The attack was huge, obviously. They got me down to 9 with it, but I was able to trade 1 for 1 with it and just take the damage from the ability and stabilize to where I had the perfect board after that, and he seemed to be out of any options to remove things. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that was game 3. This was an interesting one, because at least this was a really cool deck to see. I do think weapons manufacturing is in a really good place right now, thanks to things like the Phoenix Fleet. I only have it as a one of so far, but this is another card that I really look forward to getting a playset of and using, because it's a really good and interesting card. I think you need to mix it with creature sacrifice as well as artifact sacrifice, though. As you can see, a big issue that they had was not having enough sacrifice outlets to keep up with the generation of tokens. So I don't know about weapons manufacturing in the deck personally. It kind of fits, but at the same time, if you're focusing entirely on artifacts and don't have board presence, then you're just going to die. So anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me. This deck is really, really consistent. Way better than any other that I've tried so far at the start of the season. So hopefully you guys give it a shot. It's a really fun one, and so far I like it better than the Simic alternative.